Hi, welcome to the Big Water Summer panel that we're going to be talking about the film. I have the honor of moderating this panel. My name is Gerard Elmore. I'm the VP of Film at NMG Network, and we're going to do a round of introductions with everyone. So if everyone could kind of say who you are and who you're with and what was your role with the film.
I'll start. I'm Adam Palmer. I am a director of brand creative on the GoDaddy side. I've been here for about 3 years and executive producer for the film Big Water Summer.
Hi, I'm Sophie Harris. I'm a documentary filmmaker and I am in-house at GoDaddy, and I am the director producer of Big Water Summer.
Hi, Sherilyn Yasmin Shigo, one of the Mishler, towards Ohio, Bashing, teenage, and those are my clients in Navajo, and I'm introducing myself to you. And also, if I come to a new place, you know, the elements and the surroundings, and also the other people in these communities, in your community virtually. And I'm the subject in Big Water Summer, a creation story. Thank you.
Awesome. Aloha and mahalo. Thank you. And it's an honor to meet all of you. I love the film. Like I said, I think Indigenous storytelling is very important. And this film is a great short film that encapsulates a lot of themes. And your story was beautiful to see, and Sophie did a great job of capturing it, and GoDaddy for supporting stories like this. So I want to kind of start with Adam. Like, how does this happen? Like, I'm outside, I don't know GoDaddy, you know, kind of other than the wild commercials that we've seen on Super Bowls and all of that. Like, is this new, or is this sort of the new direction of GoDaddy of telling these stories, more brand storytelling than kind of like selling products?
Absolutely. So I would say this is definitely a new direction for GoDaddy as a brand. Look, our products and services are really geared towards the everyday entrepreneur, small business and micro business owners. And you know, our intent in creating brand films, brand work, any of the content that we create for content marketing and kind of that upper funnel of marketing is really geared towards establishing a trust, establishing connection with those everyday entrepreneurs, showing that we're a brand that inherently that understands what their needs and what their challenges are. But also the advocacy work and the celebration of what small businesses are from an economic standpoint, what they are from and what they contribute to a larger community, how they really are the lifeblood and a driving force that sometimes doesn't get the credit that they deserve as small business owners. So this film and a lot of the work that we've been focusing on highlighting through our customer advocacy and celebration is programming that highlights and really shows that connection between entrepreneurs and purpose, their purpose, and ours to support them as a business, as a corporation.
And how has the reaction been, not only within the company, but with audiences telling stories like this, as opposed to the more wild marketing? Like, what's the response been?
So I'll take that as two separate audiences almost. The first is our internal audience, and that of the folks who work at GoDaddy. You know, there is so much love and passion that goes into everything that folks do from our care and services side, the folks that are fielding 24/7 calls, to the folks that are developing and designing the products, right? And everything in between in a large corporation. those folks put a lot of time, effort, and energy and care and passion into their everyday, their every work week, right? They have pride in what they do, and they have a connection to our customers as well, whether that be on the phones or creating software, developing and coding. So there is such a depth of connection that that folks at GoDaddy have with our small businesses. So to see that come to fruition, to be told in such emotional but also celebratory stories like Big Water Summer with Sherilyn and Mike, that they feel their purpose, they see their purpose on the screen, which is really impactful and really powerful. The second being obviously the audience of everyday entrepreneurs, of small business owners. That has really had a great resonance behind it. And it's one thing to be juggling all of those acts as a small business owner, right? Sherilyn knows that she's in charge of marketing. She knows that she's in charge of her website. So she's the CMO and the CTO. She's also the CFO and the CEO. That's a lot of challenges, right? So we love the fact that we're able to tell these stories in advocacy and celebration of people who can see themselves, seeing their purpose fulfilled, and seeing their goal being met through a lot of challenges. And certainly we have not met too many through our customer storytelling platform and our initiatives, small business owners that don't have those challenges. It's amazing to see the resilience, and it does make for entertainment at the end of the day for us.
Well, I'm personally a big fan of that type of marketing, and to learn and hear that Sophie's in-house, this is maybe a good pivot to Sophie in the process, is awesome to hear. When I hear that, I hear that you're all in on this type of filmmaking and brand storytelling, and that's fantastic to hear. And so I turned to Sophie, like, how did the story come to be? Like, how did you mine it? How did you discover it? How did it come to life?
So this story was born out of a docuseries that I direct for GoDaddy that's called Made in America, and it is focusing on everyday entrepreneurs who have been through GoDaddy's Empower program, which is their sort of philanthropic arm that offers training, resources, access to tech, networking to small business owners in underserved areas. So I met Sherilyn through that series, and we decided to make a standalone film in addition to the Made in America content, which is wonderful and you should watch on YouTube. I have a background I've been an independent documentary filmmaker for a while, 15 years or 20. And, I decided to come in-house at GoDaddy, which has been a really wonderful experience. I think it helps the content because I know the brand, I know the messaging on a level where I can then take that into the field and really make sort of instinctual filmmaker decisions based on how I think real life will actually work for the brand, rather than, working from a pre-approved storyboard. I can really work with subjects and tell their story in a way I can sort of hold their story and GoDaddy's story simultaneously. And I have that, honestly, like, confidence because I have a secure job, to be completely crass. And I'm able to, optimize things in a way that I don't think I could if I were just hired, for the one project as a consultant. So I really enjoy being in-house. And I think one of the reasons, there are many, but one of the reasons that I decided to come in-house on this project is that I really appreciate that it's rooted in the work that GoDaddy is doing with their Empower program. So it's got that, like, they're doing real boots on the ground, legitimate, localized work to help entrepreneurs. And I think rooting the storytelling in that gives it a lot of legitimacy and reality that I gravitate towards as a filmmaker.
You did a fantastic job subverting the authenticity word, or I'm sorry, the A word. But it does, you know, having that philanthropic corporate social responsibility program through Empower, it gives us a why and an authenticity that I think is really, that's something, you know, brands wrestle with that, obviously. I mean, it's a story that we're telling, that we get to be in that space. We get to root for Sherilyn. We get to root for other businesses that are going through that program, because it's not just an outsider story. We have as Sophie said, we're rooted in that story in a really in an important way. And I think that creates a toolbox for us to be able to create with the stories that we encounter.
Yeah, and you feel like you are part of Sherilyn's process in the film, and let's talk about process of this film, because it seems like I hear that it wasn't easy. Like there's a long commute to get to Sherilyn, and so if you can kind of delve into the process of actually making it. And I am sure there's moments in the film that feel like divine intervention that were not planned. So maybe talk through the process a little bit.
Sure. I mean, first of all, we were working in Phoenix, and I was tasked with finding customers and clients and stories in Phoenix. And I met Sherilyn, which she lives about 4 hours from Phoenix. And I was like, we'll make this drive. It's going to be fine. So it was quite a journey, but of course worthwhile. But I think, one of the reasons that the story works and that we were able to tell this is that I as a filmmaker was given enough time to let real life happen. I think in a lot of branded content, understandably, for a lot of reasons, the approach is that you drop in for a day, you get beautiful footage, and you get some sound bites, and you go home. And one of the things that I love about this project is that it's not that. I think I met Sherilyn in January, and we filmed until August, maybe, so there's a long time to let things happen. And we're not manufacturing climaxes. We're actually, if you can be patient, real life happens, and amazing things happen, and hard things happen. And so it was really about being on that journey with Sherilyn and not having a prescriptive outcome. And I think that kind of unscripted storytelling, it's incredibly brave of GoDaddy to do, because I can't promise an outcome. I don't know what the end scene is going to be when we go in January, but I know that Sherilyn is, an incredibly interesting, well-spoken, driven woman, and she's a real client. And so GoDaddy has that North Star of telling actual stories of their clients. And that sort of customer centric storytelling is, and then long timelines, I think created some beautiful outcomes that we never could have scripted. And that's what's great about documentary work.
Yeah, and that I kind of mentioned beforehand, but the moment that it rains, after all the drama, it's a very moving moment, and it's it's a very personal moment for Sherilyn, because your father, kind of passing away, and then kind of this rain that kind of comes with it is a very moving moment, and it really touched me. And it was like, it's one of those things that totally makes the whole film, and it just brings everything together. And it was such a beautiful moment. And even when you're dealing with farming and how long it takes for things to happen, good job on capturing those moments. you
I
know.
was just gonna say, I mean, I think it's credit to Sherilyn, and I would ask, this is the question I have for you, Sherilyn, is, your dad getting sick was something that happened while we were filming together, and did you ever, what was your decision like? I've never asked you this. What was your decision like to tell me about that and to, and then tell the camera? Like, did you ever consider keeping that to yourself, or what was your decision to share that information?
I think I guess I didn't really know. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that you were coming in to really show what happens to small business owners. And I know as small business owners, we're doing everything just to make sure that, we are trying to solve the problems in our community. And then at the same time, a lot of people don't understand the background, the personal life, the things that they have to deal with. And I think I thought about that and I wanted to show it. And it was also a time where a lot of people everywhere, all over the world, had lost somebody that they loved. And I thought, it's just best I show it. It's just best that I talk about it. I don't know what's going to happen. I know for the whole time that when I found out, we on our end, we were really having positive thoughts about my dad, and he's going to come out, and we were planning, okay, with my family, okay, well, when he comes out, my sister, you're going to go do this and you're going to do this. You make sure you're on top of that. So we kind of had this plan of what we were going to do. But, once we found out it was just not going that way for him. And so we just had to kind of decide, that, it was going to be his time. And then on top of that, on the background side of it, we did have our ceremonies and, we did all of those kind of things, and that wasn't part of the film. But I think that kind of helped me have some of that strength to be able to tell it and just say, okay, well, let's just put it out there and let's just see what happens with it.
It was a beautiful moment, and maybe this is a good segue to sort of talk about the trust. A lot of documentary filmmaking is based on trust. So how Sherilyn, how did you develop that trust with Sophie and get these moments, these personal moments?
Well, when I first met Sophie, she wanted to know about what we were doing. And I felt trustful of her. And then when they came up to my place on Navajo, I told them, okay, so I'm letting you know this is what it's going to be like. You have bumpy roads. I don't have electricity or running water. Okay, so just so you know that. And when you guys film, some days it's going to be hot. And so they were like, okay. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. Come up. And it wasn't a big crew the way I guess I thought it was going to be. So it was just, Sophie, and then we had somebody to make sure that we were all okay. So we had like a nurse, and then we had 2 individuals, and then we had another person, I think Marlo. So we had 2 film people, with their cameras. And so it was very small, and I think that really helped it just to feel comfortable with everybody. And I didn't mind, them being there, when they wanted to have a different angle or we needed to do something again. It's like, all right, we're just doing the best we can. We're getting the same, just trying to get the best, whatever they need out of me and out of what we're doing. And so it was easy just to trust them. It was, and I'm very thankful that what she did with it, she told, and I keep telling her this, but she did. The whole team, they did a really good job to tell this story. And we're here at this festival, and the kids, this high school students at this film festival we're at, they're coming up and they're telling me that. And I'm like, that's exactly what I felt when I've seen it the first time, And it's just beautiful the way they tell it. And I remember this lady today, she came and she started crying because she's like, you know, that moment when at the end, when she's like, my dad had also passed away, but with that, it was like, I see my dad and all the elements in nature. And that's what the film told me. And then I had another student who did a picture. And then there's one where I'm holding the rubber bands in my hand. And so she did like a collage of that with the beats. And so she said, the rubber bands in your hand are sometimes like your resources that are, you know, that you're not able to get to. And they're all just, you can't undo them. And so, you know, sometimes you get limited on that. And I was like, geez, you know, I would not even thought of that. So, I mean, people are seeing a lot of different things in the film. And I really, really, really like that. I really love that.
Yeah, and for people who are watching, I think we talked beforehand. Where are you? What festival are you at? The film fest, or the film is traveling to film festivals all around, and now it's at.
Yeah, we're at the Rocky Mountain Women's Film Festival in Colorado, and it's a really wonderful festival. And I've been before as a filmmaker, and one of my favorite things about it is that they do screenings of some of the films, select films. We were lucky enough to be picked. They screen to high school students at alternative and special needs high schools. And then we had an event this morning with like 150 high school students who were all just like clamoring to talk to Sherilyn and had made artwork about the film and what it meant to them. And it was just it's a really small festival, but they do an incredible job. So highly recommend to other filmmakers out there.
And it's great to see the film connecting at that level, going to film festivals. And that's a mark, in my opinion, of great brand storytelling, when a film is not, or a piece is not just meant to sell, but it's actually connecting at a level that's art, filmmaking. And you know, congrats to everyone on the team for that. And to Sherilyn, how what does it mean to you that GoDaddy wanted to tell your story, that they wanted to invest money and the brand recognition behind you and kind of telling your story? What does that mean to you? And what does it mean for hopefully more Indigenous storytelling?
Well, for me, I always tell this, you know, GoDaddy, I'm very thankful that they're able to do this, at least this part for me, to help me tell that story of where I'm coming from, what my purpose is to tell my customers, you know, I want to be here for you. I grow healthy food, and I want to be able to offer this and, you know, make sure that you're healthy, because then it connects back to, you know, who we are, is we want to be able to be healthy enough to have our future generations, you know, what we know and still have in our culture, our native culture, that it continues on. And that's, you know, I'm very proud that they are able to tell that. And that's what I think this film does. It tells that. And I'm always very thankful for that. Very, very thankful.
Well, kudos to GoDaddy and the team for investing in your story. And I am hopeful, and this is my push, hopeful that there's more Indigenous storytelling that brands tell. And this is the time to do it, because there's so many voices that are not heard. And when this type of filmmaking is created, we would have never heard this story if it wasn't for GoDaddy. And that's why I appreciate it so much personally. Again, this is a lot of me personally talking. It's not going to be, you know, everyone's saying the same thing, but I personally love it. So kudos. Now I have to, sorry. Yeah. Sherilyn.
I know a lot of the things that I had talked about with Sophie when we were kind of talking about again, back to our culture. And I know a lot of people, they have their creation stories. And I think part of like what we're doing today is the brand storytelling. It's important because those stories, they have, like, the whole film is about it, you know, has lessons. You're going to learn something, you're going to persevere, and you're going to make it. And you can't give up. And when I hear our traditional stories and songs, you know, in your language, you know, you're able to connect on it in a different way when you hear it. And so that's what I think is important also is, that's why I think a lot of native cultures and just a lot of people in general, they have their stories of where they're coming from, and it's going to help them to get to where they need to go again in the future. And we got to be able to share that. And I think just in the world today, we really need to start listening to one another. That's really important. We need to listen to one another because, again, our mother nature is really hurting. She's going through a lot, and I know we're not getting a lot of the rains. It's not consistent. The weather is inconsistent, especially for a farmer or a rancher who's trying to grow food. You have a lot of challenges every day. You're thinking about your plants and making sure that you take care of them the best way that you can. And so it's really important to tell all these stories because then other people can learn from them. They're able to learn something new.
I was just going to chime in a little bit, Gerard, if you don't mind. It just, in hearing Sherilyn talk and that ability that Sherilyn you have as a storyteller in your own right, from the standpoint of brand storytelling and the craft behind the work that we're all doing, that's kind of been, something that gave us a lot of wind in our sails, is just knowing how incredible the storyteller Sherilyn is specifically, being able to articulate her purpose, the things that are most crucial and important to her. So I think, it just goes to this really the genesis story of how we crossed paths with Sherilyn. It goes back to, Sherilyn's story is not one that you're going to find at Central Casting, right? This was a lot of vigorous work in working with partners on the ground and doing really intensive story mining to meet a lot of different people. And Sophie met a lot of folks, and some incredible stories rose to the top. And I think just in hearing and listening even now to Sherilyn and taking away these kernels of information, some related to her business, some related to her culture and history. It's heartening when all of those elements that you're bringing together as a filmmaker come together, that you have those resources at your disposal as capabilities that you can take into the field. Would you agree with that, Sophie?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's such a gift to work for a company whose goal is Sherilyn's goal. Those goals are really aligned. And so it makes it easy to tell Sherilyn's story because her wins become GoDaddy's wins, because GoDaddy's goal is for her to do well, and so it makes branded storytelling really easy to do in this scenario. And I can go in that casting process and hold my head up high saying, I'm going to tell your story and I'm going to tell it well, I'm going to tell it right. And I don't feel, like I'm being exploitive in any way, because I feel as a storyteller, I can genuinely say to you, I'm going to do my very best to, do justice to your story, which is always an anxiety that you have as a filmmaker when you're talking to subjects, is, this huge responsibility you then have to tell someone's story. And so that alignment with GoDaddy's goals, being their customers' goals, is really a blessing. Makes my job easy.
I also wanted to add on to that, what Sophie's bringing in is like, you're going to be in a relationship and family. And so part of that, when we talked about the trust, then you're also making sure that you're being respectful as you move forward. And so you have that understanding. And so when she goes out and she's a part of these different film festivals, I know she's going to do the best she can. And so I don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, she's going to do a good job. And so that's just part of that relationality that we're trying to build with each other and with the company, GoDaddy, and anyone else that we bring in. We want to have a good relationship. We want to be good relatives to each other.
Awesome. And I have a couple more questions. I hope, this may be going long, but I feel like, there's a lot to talk through. that
I'm here for it. This is great.
interested. Yeah, because there's a lot of similarities in Hawaiian culture, and that's why I really connected with it. And here, everything you do to the land, the Aina, has a direct impact to the people. And so there's a lot of similarities, and I've seen great conversation with First Nation tribes leaders and Hawaiian leaders, and seeing that conversation is so fascinating. So we all feel these problems. So your personal story touches on so many themes: climate change, entrepreneurship, um, and also just relationships and culture. So there's a lot packed in a small package. And I honestly want to know what's going on now. Is it same issues are happening? Is it getting harder? Is it getting easier to run your business? What's sort of after the film? What happened? And how's it going?
You gotta wait for the sequel. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, so what has happened, some updates, is that we were able to raise our money, the funding that we needed for our well. And so it was drilled. It went down about 360 feet and they found water. So next, the next phase of the project is to get the solar infrastructure, so that way it'll be connected to the pump. And then that will be the last piece of infrastructure. And so we're getting ready, making sure we're making all our beds, getting all our amendments in, so that way come spring, we'll have that water and we'll be able to really do the full capacity. We want to be able to grow as much as we can and to see how much we can do for next year. So that's like one update. The other one is on Tuesday, we had a general election, and Mike and I, with my family, we decided, well, I guess it was just Mike and I, and then I told my family afterwards, but we decided to, I ran for Navajo Nation Council delegate. And again, that goes back to, tribal government. And I'm not a politician, but I want better things for my community and my people. And this includes like making sure we have access to water, that we have funding and resources for them so they can grow, just like what is happening here. I want them to have those kind of things and have access to that. And that was kind of the reason why I'm running for this position. And so I ran in the primaries, won the primaries, and then on Tuesday, general election won. So I will be the 25th, part of the 25th Navajo Nation Council delegate. And I know it's going to be a lot of hard work, but I'm feeling excited about it because there are going to be 9 other women in this position in council. And then we also elected our first vice president, female, for this position. And many of us are going to be new to this, but I think we come from a place, we know we're the grassroots, we're the community organizers, and we want to really help our community, especially what has happened through COVID. We lost a lot of people, but we feel like we need this change. That was something I heard even on the campaign trail, is that people want change. They want something, they need that hope. And so, I'm really excited to be part of that. So Mike is going to now be the main farmer at Coffee Pot Farm. So he's got a lot riding on his shoulders.
Well, that's one heck of an update. Congratulations. And that's fantastic to hear after seeing the film and seeing great things are happening afterwards. And definitely the well. That's a great progress report there. So I guess the last question is the distribution plan for the film. And I know about the film festival circuit. South by Southwest is a really great film festival, and we're going to be at Brand Storytelling. Congratulations. But what's the plan? What's the plan beyond all the film festivals for the film?
So we have as Sophie had mentioned, we launched Sherilyn's story as part of our ongoing series, our commitment to our corporate social responsibility team, empowered by GoDaddy. And I think for us, that's our mainstay in terms of where the content lives. So our YouTube channel is a constantly evolving and growing landscape for us. That is where we're putting a lot of the effort and energy on these long form and short form content initiatives. So since that's launched already, it's taken a little bit of wind out of that sail, but in highlighting Sherilyn's story, really the distribution for us was the opportunity to tell an incredibly evocative and moving story, and take that through the film festival circuit. So that to us has been, it's opened new areas, you know, with brands playing in this space more and more. The silver bullet of distribution is difficult to track, and it's always very dependent on the content that you are creating. It's given us the opportunity to test, learn, and experiment and grow with intention the next iteration of storytelling that we do, whether that be through customers or upskilling around products or thought leadership around small business entrepreneurs and the economic weight that that we as a company feel that they should wield. So it gives us a great stepping stone. It has been a great learning opportunity. And we just see this as that much more beneficial for our brand to continue to create these stories, because, you know, it's such a tough thing, right? Like when we get invested in these types of initiatives, we're looking to really truly make a connection, to found a value proposition with audiences. And when you're trying to win hearts and minds of an audience or a potential customer segment, that quantitative data that shows and validates you've won somebody's heart, you've won somebody's mind, is tough, right? It is very difficult to harness that information, that data that speaks to what's in somebody's heart. But when we've gone to these film festivals, when we've had reactions like Sherilyn and Sophie saw today in Colorado Springs, of kids that were driven to tears, right? That had that connection. We're looking to speak with Sherilyn. We're looking to speak with Sophie about her craft. That to us is something that's richer than data. It gives us that opportunity to go back and say, we're doing more of this because we are making a difference. We are connecting with stories that are strong, and we are making that connection.
Yeah, well said, well done. And you're right. I feel like with brand storytelling, you're having a conversation with an audience, whereas when you're doing conventional commercial, I feel like it's a one-way announcing sort of distribution. But now it feels like you're having a conversation with your audience. And personally, kudos. I admire the work you've done, and great work, everyone. Really enjoy the film, and everyone, I can't say it enough. Check it out at Brand Storytelling. Hope to see you in person. And it's been a great, marvelous panel with you all.